Eric Halvorsen, a wealthy heir to a hotel chain, hires Carrie Solberg, a modest florist, to decorate a Christmas charity gala and is captivated by her. But when he arrived at the event, what can unfold when two opposite worlds collide on a magical Christmas night? Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching the video from. And don't forget to subscribe. Eric Halvorsen stood on the balcony of his penthouse, a lavish space that overlooked the sprawling city below. The glimmering lights twinkled like stars in a vast expanse of darkness, yet they did little to illuminate the shadow that loomed over him. He leaned against the cool metal railing, feeling the gentle breeze brush against his skin, but it did nothing to alleviate the heavy weight of expectations that pressed down upon him. The city, vibrant and alive, seemed to pulse with energy, yet he felt detached, as if watching life unfold from behind a glass wall. In the world of Eric Halvorsen, every day was a meticulously organized sequence of business meetings, lavish parties, and social events that catered to the elite. He was the heir to a global hotel empire, a title that came with its own set of burdens. Each decision he made was scrutinized, each failure magnified. His father, a titan in the hospitality industry, had instilled in him a sense of duty that felt more like a shackle than a privilege. Eric had been groomed to uphold the family legacy, yet the more he was pushed, the more he recoiled. The luxurious surroundings that should have been a source of comfort felt like a gilded cage, trapping him in a life that was not his own. As he gazed out at the cityscape, he couldn't help but reflect on the emptiness that accompanied his success. The laughter and clinking of glasses from the gala he had attended the night before echoed in his mind, but those moments of revelry felt hollow. He longed for authenticity, for genuine connection, but instead found himself entangled in a web of superficial relationships and fleeting encounters. He missed the simplicity of human interaction, a stark contrast to the transactional nature of his world. Meanwhile, in a quaint corner of the city, Carrie Solberg was immersed in her work at the small florist shop she owned. The space was filled with the heady scent of fresh flowers, their vibrant colors dancing against the backdrop of the muted walls. Carrie was a woman of passion and purpose, pouring her heart into each arrangement she crafted. To her, flowers were not just products to sell. They were a form of expression, a way to convey emotions that often went unspoken. As she arranged a bouquet for a customer, her hands moved with grace and precision, each stem and petal finding its place as if guided by an invisible force. The joy she derived from her craft was palpable, illuminating her features with a warmth that contrasted sharply with the chill of the winter air outside. She spoke animatedly to the customer, her eyes sparkling as she explained the significance of each flower, weaving stories of love, hope, and new beginnings. Her dream was to bring beauty into the world, to make a difference through her art, but the reality of running a small business weighed heavily on her shoulders. Despite her struggles, Carrie remained optimistic. Each day presented new challenges, yet she faced them with unwavering determination. The shop was modest, and she often worried about making ends meet, but her passion fueled her perseverance. She envisioned a life where her floral designs could flourish beyond the confines of her shop, where she could share her creativity with a wider audience. Yet, with each passing day, that dream felt further away, as if it were a distant star just out of reach. Back in Eric's world, the pressure was mounting. He found himself seated in a polished boardroom, surrounded by the familiar faces of executives and advisors, all bearing the weight of the family legacy. His father, a stern figure with a commanding presence, sat at the head of the table, his gaze fixed on Eric as if assessing his every thought. The conversation revolved around upcoming projects, expansion plans, and the charity gala that was just around the corner, a centerpiece of their corporate social responsibility efforts. As Eric listened to the discussions, a flicker of inspiration ignited within him. The gala was an opportunity, a chance to bring something meaningful to the event. Amidst the pressure to conform to his father's vision, Eric felt a yearning for something different, something that could bridge the gap between his world and the authenticity he craved. He envisioned a floral arrangement that would not only beautify the venue but also tell a story, one that resonated with the guests and stirred their emotions. The thought of hiring a florist sparked an idea in his mind, a way to inject a sense of genuine passion into the event. He imagined a small, humble shop where flowers were arranged with love and care, where the artistry spoke louder than the brand name attached to it. In that moment, he resolved to seek out someone who could capture the essence of what he envisioned. A florist who could transform the gala from a mere obligation into a celebration of life and beauty. As the meeting progressed, Eric felt a renewed sense of purpose. He could almost see the vibrant colors and intricate designs that would adorn the gala, each arrangement a reflection of the love and creativity that he yearned to embrace. He mentally made a note to explore local florists, to find someone whose artistry resonated with his vision. The idea filled him with excitement, a flicker of hope amidst the oppressive weight of his family's expectations. In that moment, as he sat in the boardroom, Eric was acutely aware of the dichotomy of his life. He was a man of privilege, yet he felt a profound sense of isolation. He craved connection, authenticity, and a glimpse of the beauty that lay beyond the polished facade of his world. He longed for something real, someone who could see past the opulence and understand the vulnerability that lay beneath. As he left the meeting, Eric's thoughts drifted to the florist he hoped to find. He envisioned a woman whose eyes sparkled with passion, whose hands moved deftly among the blooms, breathing life into each arrangement. He imagined how her talent could transform the gala into something truly special, a celebration that honored not just the family legacy, but also the beauty of human connection. Little did Eric know that just a few blocks away, Carrie was pouring her heart into her craft, dreaming of a life where her artistry could flourish. The paths of their lives were about to intersect in ways neither could have anticipated. As the city continued to shimmer beneath the night sky, two souls, one yearning for connection, the other striving for recognition, were on the brink of a journey that would challenge their worlds and change their lives forever. Carrie Solberg stared at her phone, her heart racing as she processed the unexpected call from Eric Halvorson's office. The voice on the other end had been concise, professional, but there was an underlying tone of urgency and excitement that piqued her curiosity. They wanted her to decorate the upcoming charity gala, an event that promised to be as lavish as it was prestigious. The offer felt surreal, almost too good to be true, and for a moment, she hesitated. This was not just any event. It was the kind of occasion that could launch her budding floral business into a realm she had only dreamed of. She glanced around her quaint flower shop, the familiar scents of lavender and rose enveloping her in a comforting embrace. Each blossom had a story, a whisper of nature's beauty, and here she was, surrounded by her creations, evidence of her passion and hard work. Yet, the reality of her financial struggles loomed over her like a shadow. The shop, while a sanctuary of creativity, barely kept the bills at bay. The prospect of working for the Halvorsons was tantalizing, a chance to step beyond the confines of her small-town life and into a world of elegance and opulence. Carrie took a deep breath, allowing herself to envision the possibilities. She could create stunning floral displays that would enchant the gala's attendees, showcasing her talents to a new audience. The thought of transforming a grand venue into a winter wonderland filled her with excitement, but a nagging doubt tugged at her. What if she wasn't good enough? What if her humble background was glaringly apparent against the polished sophistication of Eric's world? Shaking off the insecurities, she made her decision. This was her chance to take a leap of faith. With a sense of determination, she accepted the offer, her heart fluttering with anticipation. Little did she know that this choice would intertwine her fate with Eric's in ways she had never imagined. At the gala planning meeting, Carrie entered a realm of grandeur that felt both exhilarating and intimidating. The venue, a luxurious ballroom adorned with crystal chandeliers and elegant drapes, exuded an air of exclusivity. As she stepped inside, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The polished marble floors reflected the soft glow of the lights, and the scent of fresh paint mingled with the faint aroma of distant gourmet dishes being prepared. As she awaited Eric's arrival, Carrie busied herself with sketches and floral ideas, trying to absorb the ambience and think of how to infuse it with natural beauty. The sound of heels clicking against the floor interrupted her concentration, and she turned to see Eric walk in. He was every bit the heir to a vast empire. Tall, impeccably dressed, with an air of confidence that seemed to fill the room. Yet, beneath the tailored suit and composed demeanor, Carrie sensed a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. Their first encounter was electric, charged with an energy that neither could ignore. Carrie's down-to-earth charm contrasted sharply with Eric's polished exterior, creating a fascinating dynamic. He exuded a worldliness that she found both intriguing and intimidating, while she brought a refreshing authenticity that seemed to draw him in. As they discussed the vision for the gala, Carrie found herself captivated by his passion for the charity they were supporting. It was a stark reminder that beneath the layers of wealth and privilege, Eric was driven by a desire to make a difference. As the planning progressed, Carrie threw herself into her work with fervor. She envisioned cascading arrangements of white roses, shimmering silver accents, and twinkling fairy lights that would transform the ballroom into a magical haven. Each day spent preparing for the gala felt like a step closer to realizing her dreams, and she found herself relishing the creative process. Yet, as she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that Eric was watching her closely, his gaze lingering on her as she immersed herself in her craft. In quiet moments, when the chaos of planning subsided, Carrie would catch glimpses of Eric's true self, his moments of distraction, his contemplative expressions. He often stared out of the grand windows, lost in thought, as if the weight of his family legacy pressed heavily on his shoulders. She wondered what burdens lay beneath his charming smile, a smile that seemed to mask deeper fears and insecurities. One evening, while arranging flowers in a makeshift workshop set up in the venue, Carrie heard Eric's footsteps approach. He stood nearby, observing her with a curious intensity. She felt a strange mix of nerves and exhilaration, as if the air between them crackled with unspoken words. His presence was magnetic, drawing her in while simultaneously making her acutely aware of the differences in their worlds. As she worked, Carrie began to share her thoughts on the floral arrangements, her passion evident in the way she spoke about colors, textures, and the stories each flower could tell. Eric listened intently, his gaze unwavering, and for a moment, the barriers between them seemed to dissolve. He asked questions that revealed his genuine interest in her art, and she found herself opening up in ways she hadn't anticipated. There was something refreshing about his curiosity, a stark contrast to the superficiality she often encountered in high society. With each passing day, the connection between them deepened, evolving into a silent understanding. Carrie discovered a side of Eric that few might see, a man who yearned for authenticity in a world that often felt fabricated. He would often accompany her to the flower market, watching her interact with the vendors, her face lighting up as she selected the freshest blooms. She noticed how he began to shed some of his polished exterior, sharing snippets of his own life, his childhood memories, the pressures of his family business, and the loneliness that often accompanied his privilege. Carrie found herself enchanted by Eric's vulnerability, recognizing the depth of his character beyond the facade of wealth. It was a revelation that both thrilled and frightened her, for she knew their worlds were disparate, yet the connection felt undeniable. She saw in him a longing for genuine companionship, a yearning to escape the expectations that bound him. And in that realization, she felt a flicker of hope, a hope that perhaps they were destined to bridge the gap between their lives. In the days leading up to the gala, Carrie poured herself into her work, her heart racing with anticipation. She envisioned the moment when the ballroom would come alive with her floral creations, and she imagined Eric's reaction, a blend of appreciation and admiration. Yet, a lingering fear clung to her, a fear that their worlds would collide in a way that could shatter the delicate bond they had formed. As the gala approached, Carrie found herself lost in a whirlwind of emotions, excitement for the event, anxiety about her work, and an undeniable attraction to Eric that began to bloom like the flowers she cherished. The closer they got to the event, the more she felt the weight of their differences. Would he embrace her for who she was, or would the reality of their contrasting lives become a barrier too great to overcome? On the eve of the gala, as she meticulously arranged the final touches in the ballroom, Carrie found herself glancing at Eric, who stood by the grand entrance, overseeing the preparations. The soft glow of the lights illuminated his features, casting a warm halo around him. In that moment, she realized that this was not just a job for her. It was the beginning of something transformative. Little did she know that the challenges ahead would test not only their budding romance, but also the very foundations of their lives. The night of the gala unfolded like a scene from a fairy tale, a vivid tapestry woven from the dreams and efforts of Carrie Solberg. As she stepped back to admire her work, the grand hall of the hotel transformed before her eyes. The once sterile space, typically dominated by the muted tones of corporate decorum, had blossomed into a resplendent winter wonderland. Delicate arrangements of white roses and evergreen sprigs adorned every table, while the soft glow of twinkling fairy lights hung like stars in the night sky. Carrie had poured her heart into each detail, and the result was nothing short of magical. Erik Halvorsen stood at the entrance, his breath catching in his throat as he took in the sight. For a moment, the weight of his family's expectations and the pressures of his privileged existence dissipated. He felt as if he had stepped into another world, one where beauty and authenticity reigned supreme. The floral scents enveloped him, a fragrant reminder of Carrie's passion, and he couldn't help but feel captivated. He had known her for only a short while, yet she had managed to breathe life into his otherwise sterile surroundings, igniting a flicker of joy he had long forgotten. As guests began to arrive, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Laughter and chatter filled the air, blending seamlessly with the soft melodies of a string quartet in the corner. Yet, in the midst of this festive ambience, Erik's gaze remained fixed on Carrie as she moved gracefully through the crowd, adjusting a centerpiece here, fluffing the drape of a tablecloth there. Her hands worked with a deftness that spoke of years of practice and a deep love for her craft. She was in her element, and Erik's admiration for her grew stronger with every passing minute. He noticed the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her creations, how her laughter was infectious, drawing others in like moths to a flame. In that moment, he realized that her warmth was not just a reflection of her personality. It was an antidote to the chill that often surrounded him. Carrie embodied the kind of joy that Erik yearned for, a simple, unpretentious happiness that seemed so far removed from his own experience of life. As the night progressed, Erik and Carrie found themselves drawn to each other like two celestial bodies caught in a gravitational pull. Their conversations, once filled with the necessities of planning and logistics, deepened into discussions about their dreams and fears, their ambitions and insecurities. Carrie spoke of her aspirations to create floral designs that could inspire joy beyond the confines of her shop, while Erik revealed the burdens he carried as the heir to a legacy that often felt more like a shackle than a blessing. They danced together, the world around them fading as they lost themselves in the rhythm of the music. The chemistry between them was palpable, a silent understanding that transcended words. With every spin and twirl, Erik felt the tension that had long resided within him begin to dissolve. It was as if Carrie's presence had the power to unlock a side of him he had buried deep under layers of expectation and duty. In that intimate moment, surrounded by the laughter of guests and the soft strains of violins, Erik leaned in closer. Time seemed to stand still as he brushed his lips against Carrie's. The kiss was tentative at first, a gentle exploration of newfound territory, but it quickly deepened, fueled by the emotions that had been building between them. It was a kiss that spoke of promise and possibility, of two souls finding solace in each other amidst a world that often felt chaotic and demanding. But as the night continued, whispers began to swirl around Erik, whispers that hinted at trouble brewing within his family. He tried to focus on the joy of the gala, to drown out the nagging sense of unease that had taken root in his stomach, but the anxiety persisted. It was a feeling that gnawed at him, a dark cloud overshadowing the happiness he had just tasted. As he moved through the crowd, he couldn't shake off the sense that something was amiss. The laughter of the guests felt distant, and the bright decorations began to blur into a haze of color. He excused himself from the throng, seeking refuge in a quieter corner of the venue. The festive atmosphere, once so enchanting, now felt stifling, as if the walls were closing in around him. He leaned against a marble pillar, taking a moment to collect himself. The coolness of the stone felt grounding, a stark contrast to the whirlwind of emotions that had swirled through him since he met Carrie. Just as he closed his eyes, trying to center his thoughts, He overheard snippets of conversation from nearby guests. Words like scandal and family floated through the air, piercing the veil of his momentary peace. Eric's heart raced as he strained to listen, the knot in his stomach tightening. He could feel the weight of impending doom settling over him like a heavy shroud. The laughter and music around him faded into a distant echo as his mind raced to connect the dots. What could possibly be happening? He felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter decorations around him. With a newfound urgency, Eric pushed away from the pillar, scanning the room for Carrie. She was the light in the storm that threatened to engulf him, and he needed her presence to anchor him. But as he searched, he couldn't shake the growing sense of dread. The gala, meant to be a night of joy and celebration, was beginning to unravel into something he had feared all along, a reflection of the chaos that often accompanied his family's name. Finally, he spotted her, a vision of grace amidst the swirling chaos. Carrie was surrounded by a small group of guests, her laughter ringing out like a beacon. The sight of her brought him a flicker of hope, a reminder that amidst the potential turmoil, there was still beauty to be found. He approached her, the knot in his stomach tightening with every step. As he reached her side, Carrie turned to him, her expression radiating warmth and concern. The sincerity in her eyes calmed him, but the looming shadows of uncertainty still clouded his mind. He wanted to share his fears, to confide in her about the whispers he had overheard, but the moment felt too fragile. He didn't want to taint the magic of the evening with the harsh reality of what might be waiting just around the corner. Instead, he smiled at her, trying to mask the turmoil brewing within. For now, he would hold on to the moment, savoring the joy she had brought into his life, even as the specter of family scandal loomed just beyond the horizon. As they stood together, the world around them pulsed with life, and for a fleeting moment, Eric allowed himself to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, they could weather any storm that life might throw their way. The air in the penthouse was thick with tension, the kind that seemed to seep through the walls and settle into Eric Halvorson's bones. He stood by the vast window, overlooking the sprawling city that twinkled like a field of stars. But tonight, the lights did little to spark joy in his heart. Instead, they reflected the turmoil brewing within him, a storm of anxiety and dread. The headlines had broken like thunder, loud and unforgiving, echoing through every corner of his life. Corruption, scandal. His father's name dragged through the mud, the family legacy hanging by a thread. Eric's mind was a whirlpool of thoughts, each one darker than the last. The news had come crashing down with the precision of a well-aimed arrow, striking at the very core of his existence. How could this happen? How could his father, the man he had looked up to all his life, be embroiled in such a mess? The hotel chain, built on years of hard work and dedication, now stood at the precipice of destruction. Eric had always been aware of the pressures that came with his last name, the expectations that weighed heavily on his shoulders, but this was different. This was a betrayal of trust, a fracture in the foundation of everything he had known. Meanwhile, Carrie Solberg was tucked away in her little floral shop, the scent of fresh blooms filling the air with sweetness that stood in stark contrast to the bitterness of the news. The shop was her haven, a sanctuary where she could escape the world's chaos, at least for a little while. Yet, as she arranged a bouquet of white lilies and crimson roses, her heart was heavy with worry. She had seen the headlines, and the reality of Eric's situation began to sink in. The man who had captivated her with his vulnerability and charm was now facing a storm that could dismantle everything he held dear. Carrie felt an ache in her chest, a conflict that twisted her stomach into knots. Her love for Eric was fierce and profound, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that this was beyond her. Would her affection only add fuel to the fire? The thought of being associated with the scandal made her stomach churn. She had worked too hard to build her business, to establish her own identity, to have it overshadowed by the tumult of Eric's family affairs. The fear of losing him was entwined with the fear of losing herself. As she continued to create, the flowers became a reflection of her emotions, vibrant yet delicate, beautiful yet fragile. Each petal she arranged seemed to mirror her state of mind, and with every cut of the stem, She felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down harder. What would happen to them? Would their connection, blossoming like the flowers she cherished, wither under the harsh light of scrutiny? Eric, on the other hand, was a man torn between loyalty and self-preservation. He had always known that his family's reputation was a double-edged sword, but he had never anticipated that it would cut so deep into his own life. He paced the expanse of his penthouse, the sleek lines of the modern decor doing little to soothe his frayed nerves. The walls that once felt like a fortress now closed in on him, a gilded cage trapping him in a world of expectations and obligations he never wanted. He thought of Carrie, her laughter, her passion for life. Their moments together had felt like a breath of fresh air, a reprieve from the suffocating weight of his family's legacy. But now, he feared that the very nature of their relationship could drag her into the depths of his family's disgrace. He recalled the warmth in her eyes, the way she brought color into his otherwise monochrome existence. The thought of losing that light made his heart race with panic. As the evening wore on, Eric's thoughts spiraled into a frenzy. He picked up his phone, staring at it as if it held the answers to his many questions. Should he reach out to her? Should he keep her at arm's length to protect her from the fallout? The internal battle raged within him, each side presenting compelling arguments, yet neither providing the solace he desperately sought. Carrie, feeling the weight of the world press down on her, decided to confront her feelings. She knew she had to talk to Eric, to bridge the growing distance that was threatening to pull them apart. The thought of facing him filled her with trepidation, but she also felt that it was necessary. She wanted to understand, to reassure him that they could weather this storm together. She could not bear the thought of being pushed away when all she wanted was to stand by his side. As she locked up her shop for the night, the gentle chime of the doorbell echoed in the empty space, a bittersweet reminder of all the joy her flowers had brought. But tonight, that joy felt overshadowed by the uncertainty looming over her life. The streets outside were bustling with activity, yet she felt isolated, lost in a sea of emotion. She wondered if Eric felt the same way, trapped in a world that demanded too much of him. Meanwhile, Eric sat on the edge of his pristine couch, his fingers drumming nervously against his thigh. The city outside was alive, but inside, he felt like a ghost, haunting the remnants of what used to be a joyful relationship. He had imagined a future with Carrie, a life filled with laughter, love, and shared dreams. But now, with the scandal looming overhead, he questioned whether such a future was even possible. The pressure from his family was mounting, whispers of distancing himself from Carrie echoing in the back of his mind. They feared that her modest background might tarnish the already fragile image of their family name. As Eric stepped further into the room, he felt as though time had stopped. The moment his eyes locked onto Carrie's, the world around him faded into the background. There was a spark, a connection that had been buried beneath layers of fear and expectation. She looked up, startled for a moment, her eyes widening in disbelief before softening into a smile that melted away the anxiety that had clung to him like a shadow. In that instant, Eric knew he had made the right choice by coming. Carrie's laughter rang out as she spotted him, her eyes sparkling with surprise and warmth. She excused herself from the group she was with and made her way toward him, her heart racing. Eric felt a rush of affection as he watched her approach, the way her lips curved into a smile that spoke of hope and possibility. They stood there for a moment, surrounded by the joyous chaos of the event, and Eric could feel the weight of the world lift slightly from his shoulders. As they reconnected amidst the laughter and camaraderie, Eric found himself drawn to Carrie's spirit. She was alive with purpose, and he knew she had done this for both of them. The love they had shared before had not been extinguished. It had merely been waiting for the right moment to reignite. In that moment, surrounded by the community they both cherished, Eric realized that love was not a weakness. It was a strength, a force that could bridge the chasm between their disparate worlds. As the event unfolded, Eric participated in the activities, laughing and mingling with the guests. He helped set up booths, served food, and even joined in on the games. Each moment solidified his resolve to embrace this new direction, to support Carrie and the community she so deeply valued. With every smile exchanged and every laugh shared, he felt the barriers that had once seemed insurmountable begin to crumble. Carrie, witnessing Eric's transformation, felt a swell of pride and love. She had known he possessed a good heart beneath the polished exterior, and now it was shining brightly. As they worked side by side, she could see a new determination in his eyes, a willingness to embrace the world outside his family's expectations. In that space, they found not just a rekindling of their bond, but also a shared vision for the future. The day drew to a close, the setting sun casting a warm glow over the community center as laughter echoed through the air. With the event a resounding success, they stood together, surveying the remnants of their labor. The decorations, the laughter, and the connections forged between people. As they exchanged glances, Eric and Carrie both understood that this was just the beginning. Together, they could navigate the complexities of their worlds, united by the power of love and community. In that shared moment, amidst the remnants of a day filled with joy, they embraced the promise of what was yet to come. As the festive lights of the city flickered against the night sky, Eric Halvorsen and Carrie Solberg stood on the precipice of a new beginning. Just as they began to navigate the complexities of their relationship, a shocking revelation shattered the fragile peace they had created. The weight of the world pressed down on Eric's shoulders, and the air crackled with tension as the truth about the corruption allegations began to unfold. In the grand study of the Halvorsen family estate, Eric paced, his thoughts racing like a tempest. The dark wood paneling and ornate furnishings that once felt comforting now seemed to close in around him. He had just received a call from a trusted source, a journalist who had uncovered evidence that the allegations against his father were far from what they appeared. A rival hotel chain, desperate to undermine the Halvorsen legacy, had orchestrated the scandal, using deceitful tactics to manipulate public perception and tarnish their name. The implications were staggering, and Eric felt a surge of anger swell within him. How could someone stoop so low? His mind raced back to the moments he had shared with Carrie, the way her laughter had brightened his darkest days, and how her unwavering belief in love and community had rekindled the hope he thought he had lost. He had pushed her away in his moment of vulnerability, fearing that the chaos of his family's scandal would engulf her too. But now, with the truth bubbling to the surface, Eric knew he had to confront the reality of his situation. He had to stand up for his family, for himself, and for the love that had blossomed in the midst of turmoil. The confrontation with his father was inevitable. Eric stormed into the opulent office where his father sat, surrounded by the trappings of wealth and power. The elder Halvorsen, a man whose stern demeanor had always instilled fear, looked up with a mix of surprise and concern. Eric's heart raced as he gathered his thoughts, the weight of the world pressing down on him. He demanded accountability, his voice steady but laced with emotion. The time for silence had passed. The time for action had arrived. As Eric laid out the evidence, detailing the rival hotel chain's involvement, he watched as his father's expression shifted from shock to defiance. The old man had long been a pillar of pride, but Eric could see the cracks in the facade. The years of privilege and power had bred complacency, and now, facing the reality of their situation, the patriarch was cornered. Eric felt a surge of strength as he spoke, declaring that they would not bow to intimidation, nor allow their family's legacy to be dismantled by deceitful tactics. The confrontation was electric, charged with years of unspoken words and buried grievances. Eric's father, once a figure of authority, found himself on the defensive, acknowledging the mistakes of the past while grappling with the present crisis. They were in this together, father and son, united against a common enemy. The tension between them began to dissipate, replaced by a newfound understanding. Eric realized that the man before him was not just his father but a man burdened by his own failures, and they needed to face this challenge as a team. Meanwhile, Carrie was also faced with the aftermath of the scandal. The florist shop that had once felt like a sanctuary now buzzed with whispers and rumors. She had poured her heart into her work, creating beauty in a world often overshadowed by darkness, but the implications of Eric's family troubles weighed heavily on her. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, she was determined to rise above the chaos. The community event she had organized was more than just a fundraiser. It was a testament to the strength of love and resilience. As the event unfolded, The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The local community rallied together, filling the venue with a palpable sense of hope. Colorful floral arrangements adorned every table, each bloom a reflection of Carrie's passion and dedication. She moved gracefully through the crowd, her heart swelling with pride. It was a moment of triumph, a reminder that love and community could conquer even the darkest challenges. Eric arrived at the event, his heart pounding as he searched for Carrie among the sea of familiar faces. The moment their eyes met, a spark ignited, and time seemed to stand still. He could see the concern etched on her features, but there was also a glimmer of hope. Carrie's presence grounded him, providing the strength he needed to face the uncertainties ahead. As they reunited amidst the festivities, Eric shared the news of the revelation with Carrie, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Together, they marveled at the unexpected turn of events, realizing that they had the power to rewrite their story. The truth had set them free, and they could now focus on building a future together, unencumbered by the shadows of the past. With the scandal laid to rest, Eric took charge of the family business, determined to restore its reputation and focus on ethical practices. No longer would they be complacent in the face of adversity. The Halvorsen name would stand for integrity and resilience. The rival hotel chain, once a formidable adversary, became the subject of an investigation, and Eric felt a sense of justice wash over him as the pieces fell into place. Carrie's floral business flourished in the aftermath, her talent recognized and celebrated within the community. She poured her heart into every arrangement, each petal a reminder of the beauty that could emerge from chaos. The growth of her business mirrored the blossoming of her relationship with Eric as they intertwined their lives and dreams. In the quiet moments they shared, amidst laughter and gentle teasing, Eric and Carrie found solace in each other. They explored the city together, hand in hand, discovering hidden gems and creating memories that would last a lifetime. With each passing day, their bond deepened, a testament to the power of love and truth to overcome even the most formidable obstacles. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city, Eric and Carrie stood on the balcony of his penthouse, gazing out at the twinkling lights. The world felt alive with possibility, and they knew that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. In that moment, they shared a kiss, a promise of their commitment to one another and a celebration of the journey they had undertaken. As they turned to each other, their eyes filled with hope and determination, they knew they were ready to build a life together, one rooted in love, honesty, and the unwavering belief that they could create something beautiful amidst the chaos. With their hearts intertwined, Eric and Carrie stepped into the future, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited them.